Good afternoon, everybody. Good afternoon. I'm Abby Sladek, and I am president of the Naples Garden Club, and I couldn't be prouder. After our house and garden tour, I'm still floating on a cloud. From the amazing things that you all did, the way that all the people that attended, and the amount of money that we've raised, but I'm just still glowing, and I hope that you are too. My legs are still sore. But I just want to tell you what an incredible thing it was, and for us to give to the community. Today we have quite a few things going on, so we're going to get started right away. Please make sure you find a seat. First of all, I'd like to see if there are any changes to the minutes as they've been posted on the website. If there's not, do I have a motion to approve? Thank you. Connie Wilson. Thank you. The first thing that I would like to do, because it is by far the most important thing that we do today, is to bring Denise and Andrea up here to say thank you and for them to give a few words about the amazing tour that we had.
Oh, I feel like Queen for a day. Or Miss America. Can I give you these? Yes. I have too much to say to hold them. First of all, Abby, thank you for all your support this year. It was a big help to us. As you know, we've been working on this event since last spring. Rain definitely was not in our plans. But worse was the wind. I had visions Friday night of tents and green aprons twirling in a wind tunnel. So thank goodness at least that held off to the end of the day. I think everybody adjusted to what we had to do. Insulated bags seemed to be enjoyed by most. At one point, there were so many people there because they just kept staying and staying and staying that we had to put up extra tables and extra chairs. I've corresponded with all 4 of the homeowners, and all of them thoroughly enjoyed the 2 days they had with us and had high praise for all our volunteers and our organization. So I think you should all give yourselves a round of applause. Okay, I do have to spotlight some of our team members. We could never have done this without their help. They worked tirelessly to make this event a success. First person I'd like to thank is right here on my right, and my good buddy. Okay, we have to move down. Okay, first, Carol Greenwood. Oh my goodness, stand up. Carol managed the monumental task of food and beverages. I'm also thinking she has some great muscles from carrying those boxes. We were supposed to have 10 cadets come to help us, but they bagged out because of the rain, so our team lifted. We were up in the refrigerated truck handing things down, so kudos to her. Linda Longden, Kristen Pertil, Kathy Joseph, and Jennifer, I know she's not here, please stand. They are the bus hostess chairs and did great training, and everybody loved all of our bus hostesses. That's all I heard were glowing reports. Mercy Abrams and Renelle Perkins were floral design. They had, and Renelle, in her spare time, orchestrated the tent and all of its beautiful decor. And I hope you all saw it, because I know you didn't see it on Friday, but Saturday it was beautiful. The garden docents, Jackie Frocham and Liz, I'm not good at this, Chahel? Yes, provided labels for all plants and trees and shared their expertise with the guests. Gigi and Stuart and Carol Whittemore, I'm making you stand. They organized all the head hostesses, and we had 8 wonderful house hostesses. That's a hard one. And they guided their guests with expertise. So if you're here as a head house hostess, would you stand, please? There's 8 of you. Some of you have to be here. They're all here. Janet Studley, are you here? She's our site ups person, and man, did she go into action. We had to get booties for 800 people. She did it. We had to reroute the original design. She did it. She was awesome. Maria Schoenfelder, she provided seats for every member on our preview tour. Dawn, where are you, Maria? Stand up. Dawn Hill, she's back there. She did our insulated bags, which, by the way, extras are outside next to the orchids, so please take one. We have 2 boxes left. Take as many as you would like. Since we had 70 no-show or 60 no-shows, we have 60 extra bags. Teresa Boyle, are you here? Yes. Our volunteer food coordinator. Kathy Reno, I know you're here. Where are you? There, stand up. Kathy Reno is the best. She created the archway, the wall of orchids. She ordered orchids. She got up in the refrigerated truck and helped hand out boxes. So we all worked together. Susie Gascon, Jill Wenham, Peggy Johnson. They are a well-oiled machine. No, stand up. I'm making you stand. They have it down pat. They delivered lanyards to all of the past and present homeowners as well as the sponsors in beautiful gift bags. Sally Samus, where are you? She is our liaison bus person with Dolphin Tours. As well, that's not her only job. She's head of texters, and she had a great team of texters. Terry O'Frank, she's in the back. Her team, her environmental committee, donated all of the water bottles, which were a huge hit, which I happen to know because I was standing there giving them out, and people were like, wow, these are beautiful. So I would like to express my heartfelt appreciation to all the volunteers whose dedication and hard work made the 2026 tour such a tremendous success. Every contribution, big or small, played a vital role in creating a memorable experience for everyone involved. Thank you for your commitment and enthusiasm. You all truly made a difference. So thank you. Two last messages. Whoever borrowed aprons, please return them. We need them. And make sure that you all use your Gretchen Scott coupon on the back of your program. Take the program. Your turn.
Thank you. So this year, Denise and I sort of co-chaired this, and I'm in the new development job. I think it's not brand new, but it's reinstated. And I just want to say the people who had the strategic vision to do that I think was fabulous for the club, because I'm sort of the money person and she was the logistical person. We'd worked together in the past and we said, how are we going to do this? And so today I'm going to talk a little bit about the money, because that's what the money, what is that show? Because, that's why we did this to some extent, to help the most important extent, to help our grants. But I do also have a whole bunch of thank yous, and then I'm going to wait for the end so you could listen to me before I give you the numbers. So my side starts with advertisers, okay? Advertisers and sponsors. We first approached people hoping they would be a sponsor. If they said no, we said, what about an advertiser? If they said no, we said, what about a gift certificate? What about a basket? And hence, as you can imagine, that all led to the raffle. And so I really want to help Jill Swenson. Is she here? Jill was officially our advertiser's rep. I'm not sure she's here today, but I kind of say that she did a little bit of everything. She had her kids do my my spreadsheet for me because we put a spreadsheet. It just was unbelievable. So I really appreciative. And she got probably 50% of the actual raffle items. Then we did the event program. Now, ladies, the first time in history, and I think I shouldn't say this for sure, but I think it was because of the rain. People were really reading this. I had 1,200 copies, and I have about 50 left. So I know people are looking for them, and it's especially important because of the coupon on the back. The first time we did that, that I know of. So please come to me, and I'll give you some, and there's some in the office, especially for that coupon. It's 50% off, I think, until there's a date on it, March. Yeah, okay. And with the event program, Greer Underwood, is she here? She wrote up the great write-ups on the houses, so she had to go early, and there was big deadlines for that. And then Jan Boyce. This year we had about 4 pages about our club right in the middle, and I went to her because I knew it would be right. And I think that showed a lot of, I'm hoping it will help some, people think about our club. And I viewed this, and my team and our team knows that I kept saying this is a fundraiser, but it's also a friend-raiser. So people know, who we're all about. The next thing is I wanted just to mention again the wallflower. I was laughing about this because during the course of the event, that, again, this movie, who do you want to ask? The Ghostbusters? Well, my team kept saying, who are we going to ask? Kathy Reno. She knew how to use the computer. She helped me get some things printed up, et cetera. And we hit the goal of selling 100 tickets, orchids. We sold about 104, I think, is what I sold, but 90 people were, some people bought more than one. So, and they're beautiful this year. And so then the next piece is ticketing. And ticketing is not easy because we have patron prices, we have regular, we have 4 different times, 4 different buses, and that team is Colleen Bassett. Always a pleasure. I had to talk to her. Colleen, stand up. And Bobby helped her, Bobby Werner helped her. I would call her and say, a sponsor wants lanyards. No, a sponsor wants tickets. No, they want 8 o'clock. No, they want 10:15. Never got annoyed. Really terrific. I really thank you. The next thing is signage and shop and shares. Gigi Stewart took on this task. I didn't even know how many signs I need. She's telling me, you need a sign for the sponsors. So that was great. A little bit crazy because some of them blew away during the day at the tent, but you can't control everything. And I really thank you. And we have, several, I wrote it down, how many shop and shares we have, because all the money that goes to shop and shares goes towards this, event.
I have them written. Let me just stick.
Oh, thank you.
So just a reminder, this Wednesday at J. McLaughlin at both stores, some of the profits will go to the Garden Club. We then have Lily Pulitzer on February 12th. And on your seats today, we have Patina's, which is on March 19th. And so I just wanted you to remember that to go. February 19th. Okay, thank you. So we just wanted to make sure that you guys all remember that. So, and if you did get a wall orchid and you have not picked it up yet, they're right in the back. Please see Kathy after the meeting and we'll mark your name off.
Thank you. Just a few more.
And put your orchid in an insulated bag.
We want to use them up. The other thing that I think people were excited about, especially at the event, is the raffle. So that was a monumental task. We had about 30 items. We decided to put some just for the preview party. It was Ann Burbage was the absolute fabulous leader. And is she still here? Yes, okay. Sorry, Ann. Thank you for standing up. Her contacts with Serena and Lily really helped us go over the top because they gave us $100 gift certificates, and we inspired people to buy $100 worth of raffle tickets, and if you did, you got a $100 gift certificate plus that nice bag. So we have some extras if anybody's interested in those bags and gift certificates. But in any case, she's always with a smile. She has a contagious smile, and she was selling tickets the whole day with Kathy Sorensen and Sharon. Sharon has a double last name, so I'm only going to say Quintance. They're back there. The use of credit cards really was terrific, and just an amazing day. And the last person, one of the last people I want to thank is Dawn Giovanelli, who is going to be the elect. And she couldn't make it today, but she was my rock as well. She did a lot of the behind the scenes. She was there all day on Saturday and most of on Friday as well. So bottom line is that our gross revenues are up about 10%. Again, this is very preliminary, ladies. We don't have all the reimbursements in yet. We are up 10% from last year, and last year was a record, so that's really terrific. Sponsorships went up to about $105,000. I think that's very good with our big effort to push that. Thanks, everyone. We had several members that asked their banks, that asked different folks. The in-kind is an important piece, and in-kind is, there's Jill. She finally got here. Jill Sorensen, thank you. So the whole sponsorship thing, and it looks like the raffle brought in almost $23,000. That is a lot. We were hoping for 10. We got more than that, so more than double. So every single person in this room helped. And we always say this, Denise and I, it takes a village. And thank you for the flowers. And
Yeah,
happy to be here.
Flowers, yeah.
Thank you, and it's for you. So it was a big deal, and I'm just so excited that we're all here together to be able to celebrate it right afterwards. Next, we're going to move to membership, because membership has a really important duty to do, and we're super excited about this. Brenda?
Yeah. So today we're going to be celebrating our 20-year members. We have actually 6 members who have reached their 20-year anniversary. 3 of them are with us today, and we are going to honor them. Kathy Harwick, I'm going to come up, Mary Pulick, and Margaret Blackburn. And 3 of our members are going to actually do the honoring of them. Connie, Mercy, and where is Kathy? There she is. Hi. So we'll do it in alphabetical order. Go ahead, Connie. Connie, you're going to... You are. Did you respond to the... Oh, okay. Well, we'll do it in March, if it's okay, because we have 3 more to do. Okay?
4 more to do.
Okay, go ahead, Connie.
Okay. I'm going to speak about Peggy. Peggy joined the garden club, and it was her first garden club in 1965. She was a young bride living in a new town, and it connected her to the community and helped her define her relationship with nature. At the garden club, I discovered how working together forged better friendships than being at a cocktail party. I don't know, a little bit of both, huh?
Tried both.
Okay, she tried both. She liked the garden better. When I became a Florida resident, it was natural to want a garden club to match. Luckily, my mother had been a member of the Naples Garden Club, great tradition, and since the early 80s, and her friend vouched for her. But I don't think Peggy needs anybody to vouch for her. She's pretty good unto herself. So she was there. She was brought in, and with no formal provisional program at that time. So the first job she leveraged was, because of her financial background, managing house and garden tickets and ticket sales. So she contributed to the beginning of that project. She worked at the paper merchant and has been selling for them for years. So therefore, she knew how to do sales and set up the type of process that we needed for the house and garden tour. To build a mailing list, she set up a raffle also. She transitioned to sales through the mail,
putting the sales into the mail, and also a few years later when we started selling the tickets online. Losing my space here, my place here. And then she became the assistant treasurer and was finally put onto the board. About that time, they moved from a condo to a house, and it was necessary for her to confront the unfamiliarity, and we all know this, plants in Zone 10. So anyhow, she developed that trade as well, or that skill as well, and she started out by raising a bed of herbs. Her garden friend taught her about citrus, and then she started citrus, and she got very interested. And I have a great picture here, but can't show it to you because it's too small, of her with her large banana crop. And believe me, it was large. As a matter of fact, I'm going to get her address because I want some. Okay. So she traveled internationally, and she resigned from the garden club as a result of that. But within 2 years, she couldn't keep herself away, and she came back. Not this one, the other one. So her advice to new provisional members is this: find your niche. Make sure when you settle in, be prepared to become a garden club lifer. Thank you so much for being part of it. Happy 20th. That's your name tag, your new name tag. Okay, who's next? Kathy?
Sure. Well, here, I'm going to make you move back. It's my pleasure this afternoon to celebrate a very special milestone, the 20th anniversary of Kathleen Harlick. When she first joined the club 20 years ago, she brought with her not only experience. She was a member of the New York Garden Club, but also her trademark humor and enthusiasm. And anybody who's had any time spent with this woman knows about that. You also know if you're in her class, you don't talk, or you get the look. At her very first meeting, she came and she learned all about these amazing plants that we can grow down here in Southwest Florida. So even though her husband said, let's not buy anything till we get settled and figure out what is actually going to work, she came home with a whole car full of plants. He kind of gave her that look, and she explained to him quite seriously, it's a tough club. I have to prove I can plant and keep all these plants growing. And he bought it. And if anybody's been to Kathleen's gardens and her house and taken the tour, you know they have all continued to thrive. Over the years, she shared with us her creativity, passion, and leadership. She chaired 3 flower shows, and she served as our president for 2 years. Beyond Naples, she represented us in the FFGC District 9 dictator. No, that's what I said. Director. I told her. It's just, you know. What did they call that? I mean, really, you know, you have to make them laugh. And she also chaired the State Flower Show in St. Augustine with the help of many of our club's members. Kathleen's involvement has always gone beyond leadership. It's about the connections. Through her garden club, the Botanical Garden, and also Ikebana, she's formed countless lifelong friendships. One of her fondest memories remains the summer that she opened herself, or her home and herself, to teach design classes to new provisionals. I was very fortunate to be part of that group. They all were.
We were bored, and we said, what are we going to do this summer? You know, you have your luncheon, and then they say, well, see you in November, and you're going, wait, what? It was an amazing experience, and we all learned so much, and we made such good friends, and we all packed on probably 10 pounds because of Brenda O'Neill's baking. But I still, to this day, when I'm doing a design, I can hear her in my ear. Rabbit ears, rabbit ears.
among other things. As Kathleen celebrates 20 years with the Naples Garden Club, she treats it not as an ending, but as another new beginning, and continues to learn, to teach, and to inspire everyone around her. And for the provisionals, get to know this person. She has knowledge. She has 40,000 different containers that she's willing to share. So take some time to get to know. She's pretty amazing. So today we honor her for her 2 decades of commitment, creativity, leadership, and friendship, and for the knowledge, joy, and laughter she shared with us along the way.
Thank you.
Look, I got through that without even crying. Thank you, dear. You're welcome. And that's for you.
Thank you. I want to meet that lady.
Okay, Mercy.
Hi, everybody. Finally, we have Mary Pulick to honor today, and it's so good to see her back in the house, so to speak, because she did move away.
I did.
Yes. So, as a member of Naples Garden Club, Mary first joined our club after moving here for the winter months and trying to expand her love of gardening. She had already been an active member in her club in Michigan. And from the very beginning, Mary jumped right into the club. One of the memories that she has is helping to, speaking of our house and garden tour, she stuffed 1,500 envelopes with house and garden tour tickets back in 2006. Now that's commitment and jumping right in.
And the price was $50 to attend.
Wow, okay. The good old days. Over the years, Mary's contributions have left an enduring mark on our club. From her work on the House and Garden Committee to her creative energy in the flower shows and her enthusiasm as a design class instructor. She has inspired so many of us to dig deeper, both in our gardens and in our creativity. She especially recalls the pride and excitement of planning and chairing our 2019 flower show. And for the first time in that show, Mary organized our horticulture division so that we were able to catalog and enter our horticulture data, which was a tremendous job at that time, and we continue to do that to this day. And I believe last year we cataloged, Pat Nave, 310 entries, I believe 310 entries, and we are using Mary's format to do so. So for Mary, the Garden Club has always been much more than events and projects. It's been a place of friendship, learning, and joy. She cherishes seeing fellow members win ribbons after taking her classes and treasures the lasting friendships that she's made along the way. And she's made a lot of friends here. As she reflects on this milestone, Mary describes her years with the club as the best ever, a sentiment we all share when we think of her warmth, dedication, and example. Mary, thank you for your 2 decades of generosity, talent, and leadership. You remind us that growth, whether in a garden or community, comes from nurturing, sharing, and being fully involved. We are so grateful for all you have given. Congratulations.
Thank you all. So wonderful, thanks. Do we have a picture, Sue? Oh, okay, great. Thank you, Michelle. Thank you. Next, we're going to bring up Connie for a few words about the flower show, and then we'll do our environmental minute, and then we have a wonderful program for you. Come on down this way.
Right there.
Okay. Hi, well, what a great meeting. We have to report a successful house and garden tour. It was absolutely wonderful. Oh my God, you guys are great. Your team was fabulous. And now we also celebrated 20 years, which are, a lot of them were my dear friends also. Now we're going to get on to the number two. Number one is done. Now we're on to number two. And under the big top. Okay, so here we go. We need signups. As you notice, the Sign Up Genius is online. We have quite a few people already signing up. Design is doing very well. We still have a few openings. I think it was, what was it, Mercy, about 5 openings? And also we have some openings in botanical arts. That is such a fun division to be in. So you really should try it. I don't want to take up too much time because we need to get our program started. So now we're ready to roll. So we've had one success, and now we're going to look for the second success, and that's going to take all of you. I'm just the ringleader, and you guys are the ones that are going to do it. Thank you.
Okay. Today's the pop quiz. I need everybody to stand up. Over here. Whoop. And once you stand up, if you drove to this meeting by yourself, sit down. Okay. If you drove to the meeting with one other person in the car, sit down. Oh, no. Oh! Okay, so we have one group of 3. Thank you very much for carpooling together. And then you're going to get, if you go back to our table, I've got for you this Himalayan sea salt. And why this is a good thing and you should switch from your regular salt is it's mined by hand. It's no chemicals are used. And it is from ancient, the quarries of it. So none of the current day microplastics and other pollutants have affected it. So you each get one of these. And thank you. So now we'll get on to our little program. I know we got a long meeting. I'm sorry to do this to you, but mirror, mirror on the wall, who's the greenest of them all? Well, hopefully it's going to be Naples Garden Club. Today we're going to talk about health and beauty products. And I'm sorry, I got to read my notes. I've done a lot of research. I'm not an expert, but I can pretty safely say I've researched this more than anybody else in this room in the last month. So I'm just going to share a few shopping tips and advice. So, first of all, you need to remember that high-quality products last longer, so there's less waste. You're not buying more of it and more packaging and shipping and all that. Watch for greenwashing. That's when products claim on their packaging themselves how safe they are. What you should do is look for them to be certified by an outside agency. So that's called greenwashing. That's today's vocabulary word. Chances are, if there's a short list of ingredients, it's the better option. If you can't pronounce the ingredients, they're probably not good. Be prepared to pay more. Most people are willing to pay 10 to 12% more for a product that's more environmentally friendly, even up to 25% more. But to be honest, many of these alternatives are more expensive than that. But the good news is younger people are willing to spend more for these products, so it looks good for the future. Packaging should be recyclable or refillable and have minimal overwrap and plastic. I see a lot of refill stores up north. Are there any here in Naples? Does anybody know of any where you bring your empty bottles and whatever and they refill? I know, what do you know? Marcia? Yes, Buff City Soap up at Mercado. You're right. They do have refill programs, and those are great. And also, when we're talking about packaging, just so you know, black plastic is the worst to recycle. So really try to have minimal of that on your products. With scented products, stay away from synthetic fragrances and dyes. Choose fragrance-free or essential oil-based. And this is especially important with things that you use daily, like deodorant and lotions. Okay, page 2. I missed the podium. Okay, so here's the list. These are things you're probably going to be buying in the next few weeks. Moisturizer. Instead of petroleum-based ingredients, look for plant-based ones, which are just as effective in hydrating and protecting. And watch out for that term fragrance, because that word fragrance can be a cover for many chemicals. Body wash or soap. Think biodegradable and plant-based that break down safely in water. Plant oils include coconut, argan, rosehip. Plant butters include shea, aloe, and cocoa, and herbs like aloe vera, chamomile, rosemary, and lavender, tea tree. Lots of good organic things there. The one thing I also forgot to say is this whole, these products, this is especially important in Florida, because everything you put on your face and your body ends up down the drain. And that goes to our water, to our soil, and to our wildlife. And wildlife, whether it's the coral reefs or it's manatees or the seagrasses, those are all affected. They're all Florida residents too. Hair products. Shampoo and conditioner. Consider bar versions that reduce plastic packaging and chemical runoff. And here I stand guilty. Stop using aerosol sprays. I'm a great one for the, you spray your roots, you spray the dry shampoo, time to stop. So I am going to vow to do that. Because those aerosols leave a lot of chemicals in the air. Face scrubs and toothpaste, say no to ingredients like polyethylene and polypropylene. These are the ones that have all the microplastics. Sunscreen, another big thing here in Florida. Very important. Use mineral ones with zinc oxide and titanium dioxide, and avoid oxybenzone and octinoxate. Again, things you can't pronounce. Makeup. Watch for plant-based, biodegradable, non-toxic ingredients. Choose cruelty-free and vegan when possible. Go for multi-use products, like they'll have the, like a thing that you can put on your cheeks and on your lips. Those safe packaging. And then also, those in the department stores, they give you that gift with purchase, and there's 5, 6 little makeup things. Really think about before you take advantage of that. Are you really going to use all those little makeup things? Are they going to end up polluting the world? So in conclusion, I just want to say, we're not looking for perfection. We're looking for progress on the Environment Committee. So if every person here in this room, changes one product that they use, that's over 100 people that let's say in the next month, change some of their behavior. And that makes an impact, it really does. So the other thing is, we just want to remind you, we do have the Black Oasis back at in the corner there. And we also have some of the samples of some of the products the Environment Committee has tried and switched to for our health and beauty products. So we'll just keep trying, but next time when you're running out of a product, just don't automatically go buy the same thing. Look around online, or go, the one place I find a lot of these kind of oddball brands is at Marshall's, at Coastland Mall. That whole makeup section and beauty section has lots of different good green products. So anyway, that's it for us this month. Brooch.
Thanks, Patty. Today we welcome Ian Prosser. Born in Scotland, Ian began his floral career at 16 and by 19 became the youngest recipient of Scotland's Floral Designer of the Year, earning the prestigious National Diploma of the Society of Floristry. After owning 3 successful floral shops in Glasgow, he relocated his family right here to Tampa, Florida. Since founding Botanical Design Studio in 1989, Ian has earned national and international acclaim, including serving as design chairperson for President George W. Bush's second presidential inauguration and creating designs for distinguished clients such as Queen Elizabeth, President Clinton, Elton John, and numerous other global figures, all while remaining deeply connected to the Tampa Bay community. You can also find his touches at the Gasparillo Inn, especially at Christmas. Yeah. Crowd like that. A highly honored leader in the floral industry, Ian is a member of several prestigious professional organizations and has received numerous accolades, including the Society of American Florists Presidential Award and induction into the Florida State Florists Association Hall of Fame. Today, he continues to push creative boundaries through Botanica, delivering transformative, high-concept events with the same passion and personal care that have defined his career. Welcome.
So now you know what I do on a Saturday. It's been quite the journey. I'm in year 52, which is kind of crazy. I did start very young. But the really cool thing is that the way that I got into this profession is my best friend's grandmother lived next door to them. And unfortunately, they were a family that didn't really care much about her and do things for her. And so as a 14-year-old, I decided that I would have coffee with her every Tuesday evening. So I would go and visit, we'd have our coffee and we'd talk about the week that had passed and the week ahead. And so I said to her one day, if there was one thing in your life that you have not done, and you would love to do, what would that be? And she said, I would love to learn to arrange flowers. So at 14, maybe I'm 15 now, there was no online, right? Shocker. I mean, children nowadays don't understand that. So somehow I found an evening class at a high school that taught flower arranging. And so she said, well, that's a really great thing, but how do I get there? So I went and asked my dad, because I couldn't drive, and said, would you be willing to pick Mrs. B up, take her there, drop her off, and then go back for her, like 2.5 hours later? He said yes. And so she was still a bit hesitant because she was older and didn't think that it would be a group that would maybe welcome an older person. So I went with her. So as my friends were playing soccer and, heading down into the woods to play and stuff, there was I with my trusty bunch of flowers and Mrs. Botham trailing behind me, and we went in. So when I started to do it, I thought, I'm pretty damn good. This is pretty good. It's my first time here, and I'm looking not too shabby. So that's really what started it. So I had actually intended going into fashion as a profession and decided to go into flowers instead. And my dad was furious. And I said, listen, he's like, everybody will think you're a sissy. And I said, well, do you think they're going to think that I'm less of a sissy going into fashion design? I mean, let's face it, folks. So anyway, so it's been a journey. And, it's hard to believe that flowers have taken me the places that they've taken me. I've taught all over the world, which has been so awesome. My passion is to pass it forward. And we've done some great things, Who would have thought that an immigrant would have been the chairman of an American president's inauguration? 180 designers, 40 delivery people. So it was great. And you learned a lot, and again, this was really back before we got over familiar with computers. So, it was my job to work out how many flowers we needed for these inaugurations. And so, and the numbers were daunting because I would need of course, a lot of it was red, white, and blue, right? So, and then we normally honored the vice president by doing his ball, the state flower, his state flower. So, I remember when it was Al Gore and we had, millions of blue iris. The whole thing was blue iris, and it was exquisite. But anyway, so we had all of these flowers to put together, and I was like just a little sergeant major. When the chips fell down, we realized we were 29,000 red roses short. And remember, you are between two red holidays, Christmas and Christmas and Valentine's Day. So it was not easy. So we'd end up, the Society of American Florists have donated the flowers for every presidential inauguration since John Kennedy. And so the value today would be a whole lot different, but when the last one I did was $7 million in flowers. So unfortunately, President Obama refused the donation, as did President Trump, and there you go. So that, unfortunately, that tradition that had been established is no more. And it was a really great thing. It brought the floral community together, and it brought communities that these florists had come from very proud that someone that they bought from or was in their community was involved in this inauguration. So it was, we had to run it. We had 4 days to, get these flowers out the door. And I was speaking to some of the girls earlier and saying that, when timing is what it's all about. And they would give me a time of, let's say, 4:12 that the security company were coming through and with the dogs. And at 4:12, you were now finished. If all the centerpieces were not on the table, you were now finished. So it was a game of beat the clock. It was really crazy. And so I guess that little sergeant major in me lives on today, and it drives my staff insane because they get a countdown, and it's like, okay, Botanica, you have 90 minutes. You have 60 minutes, 30 minutes, 15 minutes. You have 10 minutes to be done. So anyway, it's all good, and it was a very good learning experience for me. But yeah, it's been fun. It's been really fun. So I guess I should stop talking, which I can do very well, and let's do some flowers. So design styles have changed dramatically as we journey on through 10 years or 20 years. You know, we had that Martha Stewart wad that was around for such a long time, and it was so easy for Joe Public to create, or so they thought. But, you know, and people were very unaware of, you know, we have this small arrangement like this, but it's costing hundreds of dollars because there are so many flowers in it. And Preston Bailey is a very prominent figure within the floral industry, and his look was Martha on steroids. And I remember the very first time I sold an arrangement it was a high arrangement for a wedding. It's probably 15, 20 years ago, and it was $700. And I was like, oh my God, they're never gonna do this. And the bride was like, yeah, that's fine. You know, and she said, in fact, you know, they had taken a section of the ballroom at the Ritz, actually, and we had set up 6 different tables with different kinds of tablecloths, different flowers, you know, some high, some low. And I had made this mosaic that had candles on it, which was one of the low options. And the groom said, well, how would it look if we took that and sat it inside that? I said, okay, let's give it a shot. So we moved one over and put it in and he said, well, how much is it now? And I was like, oh, $1,000. And he said, great, we've got 27 tables. I said, damn, if I had thought it was that easy, I would have sold it at $1,500. But anyway, you know, it is what it is, right? So I'm going to make this a fairly easy, compact style of arrangement. And what I like to do is I find it easier to use all one kind of flower. It doesn't matter what style of arrangement you're doing. Use the hydrangea and finish with it. Move on to the Gerberas and finish with it, because you then can balance the flowers through the design instead of putting all your top flowers in first, and then we work down to the focal point and we're now out of Gerbera or roses or hydrangeas. So this I find to be the easiest way. When we use hydrangea at the studio, we always dip it in alum, and that way it makes the hydrangea last a whole lot longer. So that's what we do. All right, so then I have some trichallium that we're just going to add in here. And if you see, you know, I've placed the 3 hydrangea. This is just in a little plastic liner in the bowl. There's a little bit of movement here, so we want to pull people's eye through the design a little bit. So I'm very much a groupie. I like my flowers to be grouped. I don't always do it, but it's my favorite thing to do, because then people become aware of the varieties of flowers that are actually in the design, rather than just what I call salt and peppering all over the place. So there we go. Looks easy, doesn't it? Okay, so I'm going to use some Asiatic lilies. Now remember, when the pollen sacs arrive, although they look pretty, they need to come out. So if you have an arrangement sitting on that beautiful, expensive tablecloth, and then these pollen sacs fall out, you are in trouble. But don't smudge it. If you do, you're best to take a napkin and flick at it, and it will lift the pollen off, rather than if you rub it, then it's going to push it further into the fibers. So don't do that. So we're going to pull these little boys off. And the second flower you use? It's called trichallium. It's a funny little thing, isn't it? So then I'm going to, put my white roses in. And it's always fun when you open the roses. if you want. I mean, you know, this is very much the in look, which drives us absolutely insane, because the look these days with the younger set is no foliage and flowers that have been all opened out like this. So it takes so many more flowers to cover the foam, whether it's, or if it's chicken wire, it's the same thing, but it certainly looks gorgeous. And one of the inaugurations that we did, we had finished our event and we moved on to the next one, and they said, you know, if anybody would like to go see another party, jump on the bus. So they get to the bus, and this group were really in the weeds. This was before I was in charge. And so they had whoever had designed the table, every napkin had an open rose like this. Well, it was freezing cold like this, and the flowers were, you know, tighter than bark on a tree. So we had to run them in the bathrooms under warm water to try and warm the petals so that we could turn them back, because when they're cold they just tear and break off. So anyway, that was not an enviable situation to be in. So we're just going to add a few of the roses in here. And then we'll move on to something else that's beautiful. I've got one little bunch of hyacinths in here, and these are my very favorites. I love them. Hyacinths sometimes are difficult to put into foam, so I normally use the heel of my knife first and make a little hole, and then this goes down into the hole. Otherwise, it will break. So then what happens is with the hole, it will fill with water and become a little reservoir. So you just cut it, use the heel of your knife, and stick it in. I'm maybe going to salt and pepper these little babies through here. I love hyacinths. Some people don't like the smell. But to me, it's like springtime right there. So, all right. And then I've got some of these fun sunset looking roses. Look at this. Is that delicious? Look at it. It's got a peachy pink to the outside, and then it's more pink, or peachy pink to the outside, and then it's more peach as we move in. Okay. All right. See, now you can see it kind of coming alive. And we'll add just a few tulips, just to make it really fun. You know, tulips can be your friend or not. You know, sometimes they will, of course, they'll all go to the light. And another thing that is really, really bad for that, if you've made, as we did one time, we had a wedding in Boca Grande, and this whole thing was, the bride's favorite flower was bells of Ireland. And we had made all of these really wonderful designs that there was this big swoop of bells of Ireland, and we came in the next day and they were poker straight and sticking up, and we're like, oh my God, how do we do this? So anyway, the joys, well, it should really be the trials and tribulations of the floral industry, really. But anyway, so you can see how this is really nicely filling in. I'm pushing the Gerbers in just a little bit further because it's a big surface of color, and it's going to help my lilies and my hyacinths here to look even better. Gerbers can be such fun florals. I mean, this would be great for like a luncheon or, you know, something like that. Oh, this one's feeling a little bit sad. Okay, then I've got a few little ranunculus, which are of the peachier cast, which ranunculus really, this is the wedding flower of the decade. They are beautiful. Of course, people just adore peonies, and peonies are not always around, whereas ranunculus, their life is, their season is just a little bit longer. So there we go. Let's just fill in with a little bit of eucalyptus, just to fill in those little gaps. And just like that, we've got a spring lunch table center. You know, the fun thing when you're doing something like this for a luncheon or whatever, it's fun to use a container that is not meant for flowers. So whether it could be a tureen, it could be a teapot. Yes?
I just wanted to ask, when you open the roses, do they last just as long?
Just as long. Okay. Just as long. But do not underestimate the amount of time it will take you to do that. And do not go to your local florist and say, well, Ian said, or I might be getting some hate mail. But yes, they last just as long. They've just been reflexed a little bit. But it's, you know, it's a simple, traditional kind of look. And, you know, we're going back to more traditional style of arrangements. We can see the trend. And that is being kind of, I won't say forced upon us, but in interior design, that new and shiny is being replaced with curated. And it's a much better look. You know, so maybe they do have some modern things in the house, but we'll throw in like a traditional chest, or, you know, a gorgeous coffee table or end table or something like that, that makes it just a little bit more curated in feeling. So for me, that then means that our flowers really should go back to having a more traditional feeling to them. So anyway, Vanna White, if you could move that over for me, that would be great. So this is a great container, and I just did a little plastic tray in here filled with foam. The benefit of this is that the foam is gathered together, but you can fill this bowl with water. You know, some people think that flowers don't need water after they've been delivered. They do. So in this one, I'm going to use mainly this beautiful delphinium, which I love this in all of its different shadings, you know? It's like shades, tints, and tones of one color, and that just is fun. We did a party recently, and this is hybrid delphinium, and we had it that was 4 feet tall. And we did these arrangements with 200 of these, and it was just massive. But the color was from the pale blue to the dark blue, and then into this more violet tone. And you just saw all these shades through it. It was scrumptious. You know, sometimes when it's all up here, or if it's on paper, then when it comes together, you're like, yes, this was great. I just love it. It's, you know, it really is a very useful flower, and we're seeing a lot of events, which is our business now. We don't have retail. We just do events and parties and weddings and all over the state, which is really fun. And the place where we do probably 50% is Boca Grande. So it's my little home away from home. I love it. I used to have a store on the island and closed it after a number of years because it just became too difficult to staff it, and that's what the whole issue was. So I'm just placing these in no particular pattern. I'm just making sure that I'm mixing the shades. which give you this really, there's something to be said not only for a monochromatic color harmony, but a monobotanical look, which is the use of one variety of flower. People will say, well, when you start to arrange, do you have a plan? And I don't, I kind of sort of, I know what I want it to look like in the end, usually. But sometimes the flowers are going to speak to you. And it doesn't want to go that direction. It wants to come in this direction. So why are we forcing the issue? So that's when I say I have a general idea, but it's not always, that's the benefit of being the designer. You can change your mind. Look at how dramatic this is, because it's just one kind of gorgeous flower. I absolutely love it. Okay, let's put a little bit more in here. So I just skimmed the edge of it with a little bit of foliage. And then, as you saw, we had the foam there. The hardest thing is to do flowers for yourself, because everybody thinks it should be, they come to my house at Christmas and think it should look like Aladdin's cave. So you have a little bit of pressure. I got married a few years ago, and I was terrified of what I was going to do, but I could, the options are many, so how do you rein it in? And who's going to come and see? And yes, they're coming with a critical eye. And so I had 5 of the wedding planners that we work with a lot that are also friends, and they were coming, and I thought, oh my God, this is just going to be like hell, because they're all expecting fabulousness. So we managed to do it. It was great. What did I do? Well, we did this. I do have a photograph on my phone that I can show you, but I picked the color of plum. So it was plums and silvers and grays, and just a splash of that more fuchsia Phalaenopsis orchid. So we did, and it was, so I'll tell you the story of the, what happened to the church first. Okay, wait till we see if we can get Vanna. Oh, well, maybe not Vanna. Let's do a little bit greenery in here. So what happened was, I had ordered all of these more unusual flowers for Florida, like mock orange and different things from a farm in Wisconsin. And we got a phone call. So the wedding was on a Friday, because any industry friends couldn't come on a Saturday. So there we go. And so we got a phone call on the Friday before to say, at 4 o'clock, to say, oh, by the way, it's just, the end of COVID, and we don't have enough people to cut the flowers for you. And I said, you let me know the week before the wedding, and the flowers are due here Monday. So now, for us reordering, it's now Monday. So I was using all of this gorgeous spirea to create top of the pew to the floor waterfalls of white spirea, which would have been great. So they were not coming, so I was like, what in God's name am I going to do now? Because the idea was to have these flowers that cascaded and onto the floor a little bit. So I was driving past this client's house that I'd done 3 of her daughter's weddings in her yard. And she had stephanotis covering a 150-foot wall. And it was covered in blooms. So I called her and I said, Margot, I have a favor to ask. Is there any way I could cut some stephanotis? And she said, we're in Wyoming for the summer. Cut as much as you want, and it needs trimmed, so cut as much as you want. Oh, that was the wrong thing to say. So my best friend, who's also a florist from Scotland, had come in for the wedding. So I was picking her up, and I said, so we're having a little side trip on the way to the office today. We're going to go harvest some stephanotis. So we filled my trunk and filled the back of the car with this stephanotis. So fast forward next day, I pick her up in the morning and she said, do you have shears with you? And I said, I do. She said, we're going back for more. So we filled the car and we filled the trunk and off we went. So we had 7 on-length stems of stephanotis on every pew to the floor. When I tell you the smell was divine, you know, and we had violinists and beautiful music, and people were like, gosh, is this what heaven looks like? This is like so cool. So, and we had a choir, so it was really good. So the church was all white, because all white is my very, 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 very favorite. So it was very gardeny. I am very much a romantic designer. So it was the church was very romantic. The arrangements were huge, and I did them in the church that morning, and then we used on the pews towards the back, so the balcony of the church comes here, so the very first pew after the balcony, then we jumped 2 pews, I think, or 3 pews, and then jumped another 3, and I had blooming white crepe myrtles up on the pews that gave you this very natural canopy as I walked down the aisle. So, and why not? It was for me, right? So there you go. Thank you. So wedding is over. We get to the reception, and I had this idea of having flowers cascading out of a piano. So we made this contraption that grips onto the piano. There's plastic goes behind and rolled towels and blah, 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 so that the water does not get into this inside. And then there's a structure made this is the first time we'd done it. We made this structure of chicken wire that cascaded. So I kind of thought what it was supposed to look like. And we walk into the entrance of the club. So Palmacia Club, you enter, there's a long walkway, there's like 4 steps, and then there's a chandelier. So I moved the piano under there, and we had this cascade, which I was not allowed to be a part of that day. And we opened the door, and I said, in the name of God, what is that? I mean, it was like, whoosh! I'll show anybody that wants to see later, but my goodness, it was a statement piece. And the pianist was playing and whatever, but we sold 5 or 6 or 7 since then, you know, at $7,000 a pop. So it paid for itself. And then I took behind the bar and I made a fresh flower painting of the design in the table linens, which was that actually was super cool. And so that was, I had to give them something they hadn't seen before, you know, and that's what we did. So anyway, we're going to move on to my favorite all white now. And, you know, who can go wrong with a handful of Phalaenopsis? It's one of my favorite flowers. And, you know, staple white roses, and I've got some Queen Anne's lace, and then we've got some delphinium. So I've used just a plastic bucket here to drop into the arrangement. So whomever gets to take this home, this would be extremely heavy if it were filled with water, so I have not filled it with water. So you need to top it to the brim when you get home. So anyway, so I've got very traditional foliage. This is myrtle and silver dollar eucalyptus. And then just for fun, I added a little touch of palmetto because I like the gray of the green against the white. I am a white fiend. My yard only gets planted in white with greens and grays. And, one time I tried it and planted like these gorgeous coral impatiens. And the next day they were gone. I just couldn't take it. I'm like, take me back to my white. So, I get my white the next morning and my coffee and a huge sigh. And it was just like, all is well with the world. All is well with the world. So I'm really creating almost like a shaft of the hybrid delphinium. And as you can see, all I'm doing is just like changing the difference of the height a little bit, just to give you a little bit of dimension, and it will bring it down into where the roses are going to be. And I've got some mini callas also. So there we go. And then I'm just going to, place the white roses. So I was asked earlier, who was your favorite client? Or who has been your favorite client? And there have been many. We have many wedding families that are just a delight. And I think there may be a mom here today whose daughter's wedding we did. And the shame about the whole thing is you develop this relationship over the course of a few months, and then it's gone. And, I'm really pretty good, considering my age, that if you give me just a nugget or two, I can get it. I can remember who you were, the colors it was, and all of these different things. And so on Saturday, I was at a Gasparilla party, and this young couple came up and said, "Are you Ian?" And I said, "Yes." And they said, "You did our wedding 12 years ago." And I said, "We did." I said, "Okay, don't give me all the details, just give me a nugget, Okay, it was at the Ritz-Carlton, Sarasota, and it was like corals and greens and pink. And I said, "I know exactly who you are." And I said, "You know what I'm going to tell you? There's a story that I use all the time, and it's about your dad." And the dads are all about the checkbook. They don't care how good it looks. They're all about, in the name of heavens. That is just, that's a lot of money for flowers. Yeah, I know. It's a lot of flowers. So we're doing this wedding at the Ritz, and I see it's getting close to ceremony time. We've done the ceremony, and we're kind of finishing up, and we had the doors locked, but all of a sudden there was a man in a tuxedo walking around. And he didn't have a boutonniere on, and I said, "Sir, can I help you?" And he said, I'm just having a good time just looking around. All I've done is write the checks for this wedding." And I said, "So you're the dad?" And he said, "Yes, I am." And so he wandered for another little while as we were finishing. And before he left, he came over and said to me with very misty eyes, and I'm going to get emotional thinking about it, "Thank you so much for making my girls look so good." And it was so great, because he was just having that quiet moment, absorbing the dollars. And he had no idea what the wedding was going to look like. And all of a sudden, what you have to remember, it's pride that he was feeling, that he was able to give his daughter such a gorgeous wedding. And now it has come to fruition. And here it is. And it warmed my heart because it made him realize, at that point in time, it really didn't matter what it cost. Now the day was here. It looked amazing. His friends were going to tell him, what a great job you did. You didn't do a damn thing but write a check. So anyway, it was a great moment. And she did not know that. And so I was really happy to relay that to her. And she was like, oh, my daddy. And I said, yep, that was really cool. That was really cool. Okay, so you see how we're coming down into the roses at this point. And the roses are really giving us the meat and potatoes of the arrangement, basically.
What variety is
This, I think this is, it's either polo or it is playa blanca. If you want to do this, playa blanca is your friend, because it's easy to open. But playa blanca is the variety, I believe. But polo is another really good variety of white rose because when it opens, it holds. And I think this is a lot of the garden varieties that you see are, what we're calling garden roses at this point in time. I don't think men in particular realize that rose is supposed to be blown open. They think it should be bullets on a stick, that may or may not ever open. Whereas this way, the garden rose is open, but it opens and it holds, So that can be really fun too. And calla lilies can be a little divil to put in the foam. So a good sharp cut is the best thing when you're using callas. In actual fact, if you have gaps, which I have little spaces in the foam here, it's a nice thing that you can, if you're using full-size calla lilies, you can use those gaps to place the stem in, and then you're not taking this, huge stem through the actual oasis, which then you have the chance that it will burst. Okay. And then in a minute we'll put the star of the show in right here. And then Queen Anne's lace, it came in fashion, it went out of fashion, it came back in fashion. Which Queen Anne's lace is great, but whoever made baby's breath popular again, I really could string by the toes from the highest tree. It is not fun, it is not pretty, and it smells. So if you use it at home, then don't use it like you would use baby's breath and tuck it through like an old-fashioned posy. Either collar the arrangement with it or something that makes it more of a design element, and spray it with Febreze. Thank goodness it's kind of, what we call boas. We make these boas of baby's breath. And yes, it can be effective, but goodness, give the 90s back their baby's breath. But, they say if you keep a thing long enough, it will come back in fashion. Look what platforms did, girls. Remember, we wore them way back when, and then they came back. So, never make fun of. All right, look at these. They're just delicious. I love them. They have such a gracefulness to them. They really do. Let's put one right up in here that you can enjoy. There we go. So it's, when you're arranging at home, you need to make your most expensive flower in the arrangement be the star of the show. That's really, really, really important. So, make sure that she has prime spot to be really fun. So as I started to say, people will ask me, well, who was your favorite client? And actually, one of my very, very favorite clients was Donna Summer. She was amazing. And I did not know that it was her daughter's wedding that we were doing, because the name Summer never came up. And so, I'm going to put it in here. Let me steal a little bit here. So, I had been talking with the daughter, Amanda Sedano, which it should have kind of twigged about Bruce Sedano, but it didn't. And the day of the sample came, and they came in to see, and the bride and groom came in that I had been working with, and the dad came in and said, "Hello, I'm Amanda's dad. I'm Bruce Sedano." I was like, Bruce Sedano? I should know that name, or it rings a bell. And then the mom came. She said, "My mom will be in just a minute." So in her mom comes, and she's got, what's Donna Summer? She's got that big black hair going on. She's got big sunglasses, and she has the Donna Summer hat. And she just introduced herself as Amanda's mom. And I'm thinking, oh my God, this person looks familiar. I don't know who it is. So we were in our old studio at that time. So my office was here, and the sample room that was over here with the linens and the china and yada yada, and our workroom was back here. So she said, before we go through and see it, do you mind if we use the restroom? So I said, no, that's fine. Let me just make sure that no one's in it. So I go through and I'm like, guys, this is somebody famous, and I don't know who it is. And they're like, what do you mean? I'm like, I think it's Chaka Khan. And they're like, really? And I'm like, yes, I really think it's Chaka Khan. They're like, oh, we've got girls in front of the mirror, they're fluffing their hair up, and the guys are straightening their clothes. So she goes to the bathroom, she comes out, and her glasses were up. And one of the girls goes, it's Dawn. And I was like, give me a pillow to scream into, So, sure enough, it was Donna Summer. So we did the party, and it was at their home in Minnesota Key. And so the wedding was on, fortunately, when they bought the house, they'd only bought the house like a year and a half before, and they concentrated on the exterior because nobody was really going to be in the house. And they planted all these mature trees and different things, and they had this beautiful area on the left-hand side that had a pool. So we had the pool covered in lucite, then we covered it in plastic, and we covered it in sod. So it just looked like a lawn. So ceremony was there. They came to the front of the house, to the driveway. They had cocktails. They went to the back, and the dinner was on the beach. But we couldn't have dancing there because the beach was too shallow. So we had dinner there. Then they came back, but by the time they came back, we had lifted the sod, lifted the plastic, and exposed the pool. And they thought they were in another place, So that was that. And so the day of the wedding, I'm inside, I'm doing some flowers inside the house for photographs and such like. And Donna Summer says to me, Ian, could you help me upstairs with the wedding dress? And I said, sure. So I carried the dress upstairs. And she said, oh my God, Amanda, it's been such a bridezilla. I cannot even stand it. And I said, well, my daughter got married 6 weeks ago. I get the bridezilla thing. So she said, I'm about to make a tuna sandwich for lunch. Do you want a tuna sandwich? I'm like, oh my God, the last thing I have time for is to sit down for lunch. But yeah, I'd love a tuna sandwich. And the tuna was not my vibe either. So anyway, I sat at the counter with Donna Summer and enjoyed my sandwich. And I'm like, where in God's name are the cell phones at this point in time? She was an absolute delight. And they have 3 daughters. And one's name is Brooklyn. And she was in some soap opera thing. I don't remember what it was, but anyway. So she was just treating me like the hired help the whole day. I was like gum on her shoe. And she was the nose in the air and the whole bit. So post-wedding, I am standing at the back of the aisle. Not right at the back of the aisle, but beyond the back of the aisle. And Donna Summer comes. So the bride and groom came out, and then Donna Summer and her husband came out. And instead of turning to the left, she came straight to me and hugged me and said, "This was so fabulous. Well, here comes Miss Thing." She just comes up the aisle and she comes over to give me a hug too, and I'm like, Remember 20 minutes ago when I was gumming your shoe? So, anyway, you know, we all come across these Karens. Sorry, Karens that are in here, but I've had that ring through on me as well. It was all the post-hurricane wedding. So there's my white interpretation. All right. You want to take it here? Okay. You got it?
Yep.
Okay. So we had a little wedding in Boca Grande that was 3 years ago when Hurricane Ian, as it so happens, came through and destroyed Boca Grande. Yes?
When you're doing the arrangement like that, multiple things, how do you know when to stop? Because sometimes people say it's enough.
Well, sometimes the dollars stop you. Well, I mean, by now I kind of have an idea as to how many flowers it's going to take to do it. And as you saw, I start with one flower, use all of it, go to the next flower and use all of it. And so, yeah, that was kind of what I had allotted. Right. Right. And sometimes it's better to stop than to keep going. You know, use those half a dozen roses and another little vase in your coffee table and call it done. Okay, so I'm going to use, this is a really quite a fun bowl here. And I'm going to use some fruit. So if you remember back in the day, the look was Della Robbia. Okay, so that was, it's now old-fashioned, but now there's a resurgence of the look, not typical Della Robbia, but the use of fruit and vegetables in arrangements. I'm part of a group called the Creative Cartel, and we're a group of 14 individuals in the industry that are supposedly movers and shakers. And we kind of bring forth or revitalize a look from the past, and then you'll start to see it. So you now see tons of this modern Della Robbia, whether it's in a pitcher or on a napkin, or we see the use of lots of citrus topiaries and trees and all of this kind of thing. So that was partly us that brought that to the forefront. So anyway, so I'm going to use some of these. You know, mums have come way back in fashion. They break easily, which is the biggest drawback. But so many people are enjoying dahlias, and dahlias don't hold up worth a minute in Florida. So a lot of people are happy to use a mum in place of a dahlia. And we are very happy to use a mum in place of a dahlia. But anyway, so yeah, so what I've done here is just taken a wooden peg or a pick and inserted it into the fruit. And of course, you know, this fruit will spoil after a while, but if you're using fruit as a whole and you're not cutting into it, you can spray it if you take liquid floor polish and dilute it with water. It's like 1 part floor polish to 4 parts water, and spray it with that. It will put a sealant on it so that you won't get fruit flies, and your fruit will last the whole holiday for you. So that's a nice part about that. Okay, so in this design, I really want the fruit to be noticed and sing the song. How are we doing time-wise, girls? I guess I better move on. So I'm going to keep the mums fairly close to the foam in most cases here. Look at this with the color of the skin of the orange, and then the meat of the fruit. It's quite gorgeous. Right, so you see how that is kind of looking. This is such a great bowl. Whoever wins this or bids on it or whatever, it's a really nice bowl. Could be used with lots of colors. So then I'm going to bastardize the look by throwing a couple of these guys way out here in the wilderness. And this is very much today's look, which is not fantastic because you've got all of these. Okay, look at that, somebody. I mean, could you just eat that with a spoon? It's delicious. And so this look has kind of come around because of people doing flowers for weddings that don't really know what the hang they're doing. And it's just, but the younger generation are drawn to it. It goes against absolutely everything that we were taught professionally. But it's the in look. And so people are all about it. So I'm going to use a few of these beautiful spray roses that are, it's a garden variety spray rose, and tuck these in here. Again, here I'm doing my groupie thing. And it's easy, you know, when you're doing something like this, just you can group to either side, but it's good to have a little pathway that takes your eye from one side to the other. So I'll come up through the center with this. But again, the fruit is singing the song. I don't want to lose the importance of the fruit here. You know, whether it's the actual, you know, inside of the fruit and you can see the segmentation, or whether it's both things are playing a part. The rind of it, or the skin of it, and the inside of it are both playing a very important part here. Okay, so if truth be told, I could stop at that, to your point. But we're not going to. So I'm going to selectively prune some of these orchids, because at this point in time, there are so many blooms on it that you're really not appreciating a lot of the blooms. So I just want to thin it out a little bit. But then she is singing the song, so okay. So focal point right here. You know, this is bringing your eye down to the core of the arrangement, and then we can take these little guys, and I should really have maybe thought about this a little bit earlier, because I would put them probably in water tubes. Now, here's the really weird thing, and it's just one of my many idiosyncrasies. I like a Cymbidium's top petal to be flicked out. Don't ask me why. You can see her little face much better, I think, than 5 petals crowding. So I like to see it flipped out, especially in a wedding bouquet. You know, my staff will be doing something like, here it comes, here it comes. I'm like, yeah, flick that petal out. Just remember who's signing your paycheck. So, you know, now this part is playing the important game. And then we're going to use some of these little ranunculus to continue these offset lines that we have going on here. So I can make them jump through the design where you can appreciate them, and they are adding dimensions. So what actually you're doing here is you're buying negative space, because now the space that's here is becoming part of the whole design and letting people enjoy those little gaps. And now we can really see through to the fruit and the flowers that we've chosen to create and cover the foundation with. Okay, let me turn it around just a little bit. But yeah, so we've had a whole lot of fun in this little wedding business. People say you should write a book, and I probably should. And see, we could really stop at this, but we're not going to. I would have to have an adult section in the book, because it's funny the things that you see that you shouldn't. But you know, we have had some funny things too, and one of them really wasn't that funny. It really was not funny at all. So we'd had this lovely girl who was getting married, and one by one her vendors kept having an issue. So the wedding dresses, the bridesmaids' dresses came in, they were not the correct color. The caterer had a heart attack 3 days before her wedding and canceled the catering. And so this just went on, and it was really sad. And she called me and she said, okay, I'm just checking that you're going to be there. And I said, oh, we'll be there. That's not a problem. Your flowers are here. They're the correct color. Don't particularly match your dress now, because the dresses are the wrong color. Anyway, it worked, and it looked great. So here she is, coming from downtown Tampa, from Sacred Heart Church, and she had to cross the bridge to the University of Tampa, where the reception was in Fletcher Lounge. And as she was crossing the bridge in her horse and carriage, the horse died. I mean, you know, just who'd have thunk, you know? So the horse died and catapulted she and the groom out of the carriage. And so she turns up at the reception, bless her heart, she is scuffed up, they get her cleaned up, the dress is, torn, blah, blah. And she just walked in like a princess, and I thought, good for you. And they're like, okay, this is the cherry on the sundae of things that happened at your wedding. So as they cut the wedding cake, the legs broke on the table. And they went splat onto the dance floor. So I often wonder, are they still married? Okay, so there's our little confection right here. Okay, girls, I'm probably going to have to shut my mouth and design, because I'm running way over time for you. Nancy was warned. So we're going to use some now look at this one here. That is gorgeous. And then we're going to go back to Old Faithful Carnation, which is making a really strong comeback. So I'm going to use all of these very short. So I'm going to cut it as one bunch, and we'll do that there. So what you see here are 4 leaves, one in front of the other, and this is called shadowing, where one leaf shadows the other. So you can see it more when it's completely side on like this. So I'm going to start off with the cymbidium this time. We'll quickly flick his little petal out. And I want to bring him right to the focal point of the design. Now, I could handle that just with some moss or something around here and just call it done, but we're not going to. So I'm going to use the red tulips here, and I'm just going to strip this extra leaf off just so that you can see the bloom a little bit better. Take that little, no, he doesn't want to play. You know, just like plants have a face, flowers have a face too. You know, they want to face a certain direction. So, okay, here's our, and then I'm going to use these James Story orchids, which are such a gorgeous color. James Story. And what I'm going to do with those, if you look at the beautiful curve that they have, I'm going to take this curve and we're going to really play with it and put it in here. And it's almost as you look at these orchids, they tell you which direction. You know, it doesn't want to go here because the blooms are facing the front. So that's a natural for this side here. So this is now creating this crescent that is pulling your eye in towards the main flower. So, but these are great. It's such a great color, as I said. So see what's going on here? So we'll put these fellows off to the side. And then I'm going to use the carnations, and although we would think this is maybe pavéing them, it's called pillowing because you have a rounded form that gives you like a little pillow. So you want them to sit slightly above one another. Pavéing them would be them all on the same plane. But here I want to just let them sit down a little bit. Now, do you see how the red of the carnation is making the orchid look more important? Okay. You know, so the lowly carnation makes a comeback. I have always said, you know, if somebody puts a carnation in my casket piece, my hand will come out the box and get you. So be warned. We're scared. You should be. Because I like carnations not used as a carnation would be used. You know, I think we always associate them to, like gladiolas, to funeral arrangements or something. You know, we have a wedding coming up in a few weeks, and she does not want any arrangements that are solely white at the wedding because when her father passed away, they received all these white arrangements, and she said, I just have that association. And I don't want all white anything. So, you know, in the church we've got touches of blush, and here's the funny thing. So she comes in for her wedding appointment, and she's showing me all these photographs, and it's in my church. And she said, you know, you see these things here, the trees on the pews and blah, blah. Would you know how to do this? And I said, we did the wedding. She said, oh, you did this wedding? And I said, yeah, and I was the groom. So yes, we know how to do this. So that was funny. And she said, I don't know how to say other than, I also saw this photograph of a vomiting piano. And I would like that too. And I said, well, guess whose wedding that was at? So we're doing, but she wants more grandiose than me. The piano is up in the center stage, and there are 2 levels of the stage itself. And then there's 5 steps that have vintage mirror along the front of the steps. It's very much a Parisian look to the wedding, almost like, kind of art French, I should say. Very Monet's garden is the look of the entire wedding, and we managed to find a rental company in Birmingham that has all of the French trillage, with the finials and the curves, and so we're going to use smilax on it and clusters of roses so that it looks like these roses are climbing up this trillage. It's going to be quite the wedding. And then 2 weeks ago, she added a tunnel of flowers. So we're now making a tunnel of flowers with tens of thousands of hydrangea. So we need a cocktail at the end of that wedding. So this is the red, and thank you. I just love all the different shades of it. You've got more of a brick red here, you've got brilliant red here, and then we go to this almost like cherry chocolate or something. So anyway, thank you, Nancy. Okay, so let's do this little baby for you now. Yes. Alum. So you cut the stem, dip the alum, stick it in the foam. Now, if you want to use hydrangea foliage, the foliage needs to stay on the stem. You can't pluck a leaf off and dip it. It will not. Hydrangea foliage has to stay on the stem to live. Yep. Okay. All right. So we have more of the Asiatic lilies that have opened perfectly. So I'm just going to take the little anther out to start with. Okay. So again, I've used a little bucket in here. And again, whoever gets this arrangement, I have not filled it with water so that it doesn't weigh a ton. So it needs to get, all of them need to get a drink on the way home, after they get home. I mean, you can stop and have a drink on the way home, but whoever said that was wrong, right? And it's cold enough, so this will be okay in your car. All right, so we put the lilies in. I'm just going to do the hydrangea. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to cut them and put their stems right down the side of the foam so that it, they go right to that water source. It's so funny. We have a big event that we used to do for many years, and they brought in this other company was doing draping and such like. And so they were going to do the overhead piece. Okay, that's fine. Wasn't 100% happy about it, but okay, that's fine. So they go ahead and do it, and there's a lot of stuff they had parties like, it's Burns Wine Fest, so they had parties every day for a week, or 8 days. So we go back on Sunday morning for the big hurrah, and there's that ceiling piece that they did, and all of the hydrangea was dead. And they said, what can you do? What can we do? And I said, well, you're going to have to throw it away because the hydrangea is 100% collapsed. And they had stuck it into styrofoam. It's like, okay, hydrangea, hydrate. It needs water. So, you know, can't say that I didn't walk away and laugh at that point, but I channeled my inner evil twin, and yeah, it was not great, because then I said, well, you know, I can go back to the studio and get artificial, and that's what you're going to have to use, because, you know, we don't have 200 hydrangea, and they've taken forever to make these arrangements, or this ceiling install. So the event planner, yes?
What's the green foliage plant that you started with?
This here? I don't have a clue. I was allowed to go and cut some stuff from the, and this actually came from the parking lot, so we called this roadsidea. And then if you cut it from a hotel parking lot, it's called hotelia. The things we have to do, I swear. I actually have a friend who keeps one of those, you know, the luminous yellow jackets that and she keeps one in the trunk of her car, so that she can get out at any point, put the vest on, and she just clips away. And nobody gives her heat about it because she looks legit, you know? And the only reason that I know that is I was doing a program in St. Louis, and this whole thing had to have a Scottish theme. It was not my choice, but it had to have a Scottish theme. And I could not get thistles. And this girl I used to do some magazine work with, and she walks into the design room with this biggest bunch of thistles. And I said, my gosh, where did you find this? And she said, well, it was growing at the side of the highway. So I came off at the next exit, turned back, and came back down, threw my little jacket on, and just whacked those flowers down and made it, and here they are. I said, I should maybe get myself one of those little jackets. But anyway, I was telling you about the hurricane reschedule in Boca Grande. So Ian came along, I think it will be 3 years past in October, and the wedding was in 11 days on Boca Grande, place destroyed, and it was in the little Catholic church, and they were putting awnings outside so they could have 90 people in the church and another 100 outside, which that happens quite a lot there. And so here comes a hurricane. So the groom's mother, who was paying for the floral, calls me and she's like, oh my God, have you seen what just happened? And I've been on to the inn, and we can't have the wedding there. And I said, well, I understand that. So she said, so let me get back to you in a day or so. So she calls us back. This now would be Sunday. And she said, the wedding is moving. So, okay, so are you visualizing this 90-person church in Boca Grande? She said, the wedding is moving to St. Patrick's Cathedral. I said, in your next life it is. And she said, no, seriously. They are going to move a mass forward and a mass back and squeeze us in. So I need you and Zoe on a plane to New York till we decide what we're doing here. I was like, oh, heck. So we fly up there on the Tuesday, and, you know, obviously you're going to need way more flowers for St. Patrick's Cathedral. And then it was the Museum of History in New York. Now, let's talk about Karen. Sorry, Karens. So the wedding went there. We needed a place to work. So they had a home in, thank you, Nancy. They had a home in New Jersey, 45 minutes from the city, that had a barn. So we came home. We had to rework everything, and the groom was being a bit of a jackass. So I called to speak to his mom, and he answers the phone. So he's going on and on, well, we're going to sue you and this and that. And the next thing I'm like, wait. Did you read the email? And he said, no. I said, then I'm going to tell you a few things here. Number one, don't speak to me like that. Number two, read the email, have a cocktail, and call me back in 30 minutes. So he did. So they hadn't read the email because we gave them options of what we could do. Either you can use a local florist, we will have all the product sent to you. Where the flowers are ordered and paid for at this point in time, so there's nothing that we can undo. Or we can do whatever else it was, or we can come and do it, but you will incur the cost of us traveling, hotels, blah, 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 blah. So he calls me back, and he was like, oh, Ian, how are you this fine day? And I'm like, yeah, maybe you had 2 cocktails, or you've decided to be Mr. Pleasant now, that we're helping you. So anyway, we got things finalized on the Friday. We had staff leave on the Saturday and drive up for 2 days. And then we met the crew there on Tuesday. Put all the flowers in water, managed to get a wholesaler in New Jersey to receive the floral. And then we made the wedding. So we arrive at the church. There are policemen outside saving spots for the florist. I was like, this is pretty dandy. So it turns out that the groom's grandfather had been the Treasury Secretary for a president whom I don't know. And when he passed, he left a foundation that funneled the monies through St. Patrick's Cathedral to the diocese. So that's why that move forward, move backward, move on in. So that's what really happened. And they could not have been the nicest people. So we changed, what would have been a Boca Grande pastel wedding, and we had to change to like coral colored tablecloths instead of blush pink cloths, and just make it a little bit, because it was October, so make it a little bit more New York in the fall, because the flowers were on the way. There was nothing we could do about it, but she added more flowers. So what we did was we added color, deeper color, with the extra flowers that were ordered. And when I tell you, these arrangements were the width of this table, and they would have touched the ceiling. And they went into the St. Patrick's and they went, boop. But it did look amazing, and she had masses of flowers. It was truly beautiful. And then we did the Museum of History. And I had one of the most unpleasant experiences that I've ever encountered in my career, because Karen decided to make it difficult for the out-of-towners and allowed us to walk out of the room we'd been allocated after telling us to move the flowers 4 times from this corner to that corner to over here. So anyway, we get beyond that. So we had to go out the door, down this long hall, up a long hall, down a long hall here. So she allows us to do that for 2 hours and then says, if you go through that door right there, it takes you right into the ballroom. Are you kidding me? So anyway, it was not a pleasant experience, but we got there. So then we had a table that had to become a bigger table for sign in or whatever. And so she had her assistant with her, and I'm standing right here. And she says, tell him that we need a bigger tablecloth, but we understand that he probably doesn't have it. So it's his problem to work out. So I said to her assistant, tell her that I have 5 extra of every tablecloth in the building in case we had this situation. So he has his bases covered. I felt like Julia Sugarbaker. It was awesome. So anyway, we did it come the end of the night. So the family apparently donated or pledged $1 million to them because they squeezed them in. So we get to the end of the wedding, and on the said table, the groom's mother's there, and she's pulling flowers out, and I'm behind her, and I said, hey, you're not allowed to do that. So she turns around, and she said, oh, it's you, and blah, blah, blah. So, of course, here's Karen behind her like a chihuahua, like a little chihuahua in her pant leg, and probably looking for a tip is what I think she was doing. So the mother said, have you met Ian? Because, he's used to doing these big events and blah, 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 blah. And here he is doing our little wedding at the, Museum of History and whatever. And I said, oh, we've met. And I left it at that. So not through me, but through someone, she heard how horrible the girl had been. Because she had intentionally given us the wrong measurement to the ramps. So she said, it needs to have a wheelbase. It can have a wheelbase of 25 inches to get up this ramp outside. And so we had, I anticipated a little, maybe a situation. And so we took racks, metro racks, that had a 22-inch wheelbase. So now we're ahead of the game. Well, the ramp only took an 18-inch wheelbase. So all the stuff that was on racks had to be taken off and hand-carried in. And she knew that. And, of course, she's saying, well, New York florists use the correct size of... and I said, well, here's the thing. I'm here for the first time. I'm from out of town. This is a rush wedding. You should be more on my side. I said, the way that I view it, and clearly you don't, is the day of the wedding, we are part of a team. We should all have the same end goal, and that is to make the family happy. That's what it's all about. And if we make it easy and we work together, it's better for everybody. So Karen lost the $1 million for the museum, and she's now not working there. I thought that was exceptionally good news. Not that I'm being evil, but, karma. It can come back and bite you quite quickly. So anyway, this is a little bit of a messy, untidy, hand-gathered kind of arrangement, which this kind of arrangement just thrills my heart. So, anyway, this is our last piece for today. Sorry, I have talked your ear off. I hope you've enjoyed being here as much as I've enjoyed being here. As far as garden clubs go, this is pretty much the cherry on the sundae. So, congratulations to all of you for what you raised and, what I heard earlier with the home tour. Maybe next year I need to tootle down and come to the home tour. That would be fun. But anyway, it's been my pleasure to be here this afternoon. Thank you very much for having me.